For nearly a millennium, the Grosvenor family has navigated the turbulent tides of political, economic and social change with unmatched acumen and resilience. Through astute marriages, shrewd investments and an intrinsic understanding of power dynamics, their legacy has crafted a blueprint of aristocratic survival and flourish in a world that has relentlessly evolved around them. Tracing their lineage back to the Norman Conquest of 1066, today we will study how they've emerged, not merely as a lineage of nobility, but as a multi-billion-dollar property dynasty, holding vast swathes of London under their stewardship. Indeed, their story is a vivid chronicle of survival, power, and the subtle art of influence, echoing through the corridors of history into the digital pulse of the modern age. Imagine for a moment you are a tourist in London, the seemingly endless metropolis resonant with a vivacious pulse and twinkling city lights, where ancient stone streets whisper tales of yesteryear and modern skyscrapers soar into the vast cerulean skyline. Indeed, on your journey to our sumptuous capital, you'll likely find yourself strolling by iconic landmarks, such as the stately Buckingham Palace, the majestic Tower of London, or the illuminated London Eye, all images that immortalize the city's indomitable spirit. Yet, as you wander these serpentine streets, there's a high likelihood that you're stepping on property owned by a quintessentially British family, an embodiment of the old money stature. They're the unseen marionettists pulling the strings of London's property scene, their sprawling holdings defining the essence of the city. For instance, this covert dynasty owns an astonishing 50% of the prestigious district of Mayfair, including the freeholds of the American Embassy, the Beaumont Hotel, and the Gagosian Gallery. Moreover, their sway extends over 300 acres of the wildly opulent Belgravia area, renowned for its extravagant properties. But the vast stretches of their power and influence within Albion don't just stop there. These old money English nobles have held significant sway in British society for, believe it or not, almost 1,000 years. In today's video at Old Money Luxury, we'll unveil the captivating narrative of the Grosvenors, an English family whose grasp on London's real estate is as profound as their millennia-old impact on British society. The Grosvenor family's will to power shockingly stretches back to the very beginnings of what we know as modern Britain, with their fierce ancestor Hugh Lupus being renowned as the chief huntsman to none other than William the Conqueror. His ceaseless wolf-like tenacity in shielding Cheshire from the Welsh invaders won him the coveted lands in the highly consequential year of 1066. Known endearingly as Fat Hugh, his merry crest showcased a laughing dog, an emblem which would soon yield another immense tie in Grosvenor family lore to British history, as this ancestor's crest became the muse for Lewis Carroll's unforgettable Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland. Now, the family's rise to power within the nobility began with the stalwart Sir Richard Grosvenor, the first baronet, who made his grand entrance into the world on a crisp, frost-bitten January morning in 1585. After an Oxford education and position as the High Sheriff of Cheshire, Sir Richard leveraged his growing power to become knighted by King James I on a bright summer day in 1617 amidst the verdant, tranquil Vale Royal. To put this into perspective, this ancestor of the Grosvenor Empire was being knighted at the same time Shakespeare was alive and the King James Bible emerged. Now, Sir Richard further won the affections and votes of the public as a charismatic Member of Parliament for Cheshire in 1621 and acquired the prestigious baronet's title a year later. In fact, his eloquently penned diary entries from the time are still read in the 21st century as invaluable nuggets of historical wisdom. The Grosvenor family legacy was furthered by the intrepid Sir Richard Grosvenor, the second baronet, a staunch royalist during the turbulent Civil War. As the High Sheriff of Cheshire in 1643, the same position his father held, he ousted Parliament supporters from the chaotic Battle of Edgehill, standing firmly by his beliefs. He later joined forces with the stalwart Sir George Booth in the unsuccessful but audacious Royalist uprising of 1659. Succession brought forth the visionary Sir Thomas Grosvenor, the third baronet, who paved the way for their sprawling property empire. He masterminded the construction of an impressive residence where the majestic Eaton Hall in Cheshire stands today. The massive estate, adorned with manicured gardens, fertile farmland, lush woodlands and expansive parkland, contributed greatly to the growth of the illustrious Grosvenor dynasty and the prosperity of the Cheshire community. In 1677, when Sir Thomas married the elegant Mary Davies, Her dowry, Ebury, bolstered the Grosvenors' expanding landholdings. This humble 500-acre patch of meadows and marshland underwent a dramatic transformation into the opulent districts of Mayfair and Belgravia. As London grew and spread its wings westwards, the Grosvenor family would wisely harness this potential and shape the city's most prestigious neighbourhoods. Now, the first modern Grosvenor, Hugh Lupus, the first Duke of Westminster, was a titan of Victorian society, acclaimed not only as a formidable landowner and astute politician, but also as an ardent racehorse aficionado. His substantial influence over London's wealthiest neighbourhoods began unfolding in the mid-1800s. You see, through strategic investment and visionary leadership, the Duke had capitalised on the shifting dynamics of the late 19th century economy. Many aristocratic families struggled to adapt to the decline of the agricultural economy. However, the Grosvenors, through a fortunate turn of events, found themselves at the heart of London's rapid urban expansion. As the Duke poured his substantial fortune into further development, under his shrewd guidance, the transformation of one of London's most exclusive districts, Belgravia, began. The marshy tracts of Mayfair were also transformed into luxurious residences. By doing so, they turned these areas, along with Pimlico, into some of London's most sought-after addresses. Furthermore, in 1852, his connection to the British monarchy was cemented when he married his cousin, Lady Constance Sutherland Leveson Gower, in a ceremony at St James's Palace, attended by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. This event established the foundation for Grosvenor's close association with the Queen, given his mother-in-law's favoured standing within the royal court. Building on this connection, the first significant milestone of the Grosvenor family's ascension to the pinnacle of Britain's influential elites occurred in 1874. That year, Queen Victoria likely recognised the vital role that the Grosvenors played in transforming London's cityscape, and as a result, bestowed upon Hugh Grosvenor the prestigious title of Duke of Westminster. Additionally, as the 20th century dawned, the family's holdings continued to grow, acquiring more properties in Scotland and elsewhere. The Grosvenor family's vast wealth and prominence in British society thus spoke to their strategic acumen, visionary leadership, and the fortunate circumstances of their time. Now Hugh's son, Gerald Cavendish Grosvenor, the 6th Duke of Westminster, cultivated an even unprecedented fortune, skillfully steering the modern Grosvenor Empire to new heights of affluence and influence. By his time, the name Grosvenor had become a byword for first-class real estate, and in the post-war era of the 1950s, the Grosvenor domain would burgeon beyond the borders of its London heartland. Presiding over the Grosvenor Group, Gerald first guided the company as its chairman. In the inaugural edition of the Sunday Times Rich List, published in 1989, he was placed as the second wealthiest person in the United Kingdom, boasting a staggering fortune of £3.2 billion, an eye-watering £8.47 billion in today's terms. Only Queen Elizabeth II herself surpassed him. Thus, Gerald Grosvenor's visionary leadership heralded an era of significant expansion and diversification for the Grosvenor Group. The company broadened its property portfolio across multiple sectors and locales, specializing in urban property, food and ag-tech, and rural estates. Its urban property ventures included the development and management of vibrant urban sites, such as the American capital Washington, D.C., where the Grosvenor presence had been instrumental in the city's renaissance since 1988. Simultaneously, the Grosvenor food and ag-tech sector spearheaded investment in companies transforming the world of food and agriculture for the better. With a veteran investment team, they expertly managed a portfolio of over 25 companies, ushering in positive change in food and farming with a focus on human health, environmental sustainability, and economic viability. In rural estates, Grosvenor handled a plethora of agricultural, residential, and commercial properties spread across rural Cheshire and parts of Chester city centre. Thus, the modern Grosvenor Empire was a masterclass in not only wealth preservation, but expansion and social acuity, as they shrewdly modulated from minor nobility to some of the monarchy's closest confidants and business partners. However, the lustrous history of the Grosvenor lineage, like many old money families, is not devoid of shadows. Behind the opulence and majesty, elements of controversy often lurk, tainting the family's well-polished image. In the late 2000s, a scandal of a distinctly dissolute nature embroiled Gerald Cavendish Grosvenor, the 6th Duke of Westminster. Come 2008, media outlets were abuzz with stories associating him with the notorious Emperor's Club VIP, a high-end call-girl ring at the heart of New York Governor Eliot Spitzer's downfall. Reports insinuated that despite the vast Grosvenor fortune, the Duke was uncharacteristically tight-fisted, choosing to bargain with an Emperor's Club girl over their liaison's cost. This unexpected revelation somewhat marred the family's prestige, sparking a wave of gossip among the British elite. But this unsavory encounter with the Emperor's Club was not the only time the Grosvenor family's name was tarnished. A few years later, the infamous Paradise Papers implicated the family in another scandal. The leaked documents, which unveiled an extensive network of offshore tax havens used by the world's wealthy and influential figures, indicated that the Grosvenors had channeled dividends worth millions into concealed offshore companies. This startling disclosure traced back to 1999 and suggested that these offshore entities controlled approximately half of the shares in a subsidiary company managing the Grosvenors' North American and Australian ventures. The intricate offshore arrangement aimed to reduce tax liabilities, igniting public furor and raising serious ethical questions about the family's financial dealings. Moreover, in 2019, Hugh Grosvenor, the Duke of Westminster, faced severe backlash and accusations of so-called social cleansing. This controversy emerged when his property group, Grosvenor, planned to raze Walden House in Belgravia, London, to make way for a plush new development. This proposition threatened to displace 40 families from their council homes, with some residents having inhabited them for up to 40 years. The plans sparked public indignation, resulting in a petition opposing the eviction gathering over 180,000 signatures. In response to the public outcry, Westminster City Council announced that all tenants would receive new social housing on the site, effectively averting the eviction. Grosvenor refuted the social cleansing allegations, asserting that such language contradicted their business ethos. Despite this, the controversy underscored the escalating concerns around the impact of luxury property developments on London's working-class communities. Now, navigating the 21st century, the Grosvenor family maintains a commanding and influential presence, their wealth predominantly rooted in their enormous land and property assets. Within London, the family's ownership comprises half of Mayfair, encompassing freeholds of the American Embassy, the Beaumont Hotel, and the Gagosian Gallery, along with 300 acres of Belgravia. Several other properties within the area include the Biscuit Factory in Bermondsey, St Mark's in Mayfair, and Eaton Square in Belgravia. Their holdings also extend to the Eaton Estate in Cheshire, the Abbey Stead Estate in Lancashire, and additional estates in Scotland and Spain. Indeed, the family's property enterprise, the Grosvenor Group, remains a driving force in urban property development and investment across many of the world's premier cities. They showcase considerable expertise in handling listed buildings and developing new properties, often investing in community-oriented features like sports facilities and shopping centres. Internationally, their holdings comprise notable assets in various locations. In Canada, they possess Annacis Island, a vast 485-hectare property nestled in Vancouver's Fraser River. In the United States, Grosvenor Americas focuses on property development and investment, with diverse projects spread across the nation. Over in Hong Kong, the Grosvenor Group has invested in luxury homes development through a Bermuda entity, Grosvenor Land Property Fund Limited. Additionally, the Grosvenor Group boasts investments across various European countries, including France, Spain, and Portugal. Now, the current family figurehead is Hugh Grosvenor, the 7th Duke of Westminster, with a net worth nearing a staggering $12.5 billion. Known for his youthful charm, Hugh Grosvenor has been described as having been born with the longest silver spoon anyone can have. Despite his colossal wealth and privilege, in true old money fashion, he favors a low-key lifestyle, avoiding public scrutiny. His close friendship with Prince William extends to him being the godfather to Prince George, a symbol of the close ties between the Grosvenor and royal families. Furthermore, this connection extends further, as the Grosvenors have long been closely allied with the royal family, with the 7th Duke of Westminster being one of King Charles's 33 godchildren. Regarding the fairer sex, one of the Grosvenor family's most influential women today is Lady Edwina Grosvenor, the sister of the 7th Duke of Westminster. Born into exceptional wealth and privilege, she has chosen a path of philanthropy and prison reform. As the founder and chair of One Small Thing, an organization that collaborates with prisoners and staff in male and female prisons, and a founding investor and ambassador of the Clink restaurant chain, which prepares prisoners for the catering industry, Lady Edwina's efforts in prison reform and dedication to philanthropy have been said to underline her commitment to harnessing her influence and resources for societal betterment. Thus, through centuries of strategic decisions, visionary leadership and the convergence of destiny, the Grosvenors have transformed from stalwart knights of the British realm since the days of William the Conqueror to the modern, old money British family that owns the richest parts of London. In the echelons of British aristocracy, few names resonate with the weight and heritage of the Grosvenor family, the Dukes of Westminster. Tracing their lineage back to the Norman Conquest, this storied lineage exemplifies the enduring legacy of old money in a modern age that often seems to have left such antiquities behind. And the Grosvenors have not only survived, but thrived, skillfully navigating the complexities of the 21st century while maintaining a connection to traditions and values that hark back to medieval England. In today's episode, we will embark on a journey through the Grosvenors' magnificent mansions and estates, exploring the lavish embodiments of their storied heritage as we take you through the old money mansions of the Grosvenor family. First on our list is Eaton Hall, the prestigious country residence of the Duke of Westminster. Standing as a significant marker of architectural progress through the ages, this estate is situated close to Eccleston in Cheshire, England, and has been the cornerstone of the Grosvenor family heritage since the 15th century. Now, the initial substantial dwelling was erected in the 17th century, but it was during the 19th century that Eaton Hall witnessed transformative architectural advancements. First, the early 19th century saw the demolition of the original residence, making way for a more imposing structure conceived by William Porden. And Porden's architectural venture was a pivotal example of pointed architecture, harmonizing elements of early and late Gothic styles. This particular rendition of Eaton Hall was distinguished by its intricate geometrical patterns, fan tracery, and stained glass windows, emblematic of the Gothic revival movement prevalent at the time. Nonetheless, even the Porden-designed Eaton Hall was short-lived, giving way to a much grander mansion envisioned by Alfred Waterhouse. And Waterhouse, celebrated for his contributions to the Natural History Museum in London and Manchester Town Hall, was enlisted by Hugh Grosvenor, the third Marquess of Westminster, later the first Duke of Westminster. Initiated in 1870 and culminating roughly 12 years later, Waterhouse's creation epitomized Victorian Gothic revival architecture, incorporating a chapel, auxiliary buildings, and lavish interiors adorned with ebony, alabaster, porphyry, and green serpentine. Next, the 1960s marked a period of decline for Waterhouse's Eaton Hall, leading to a decision that the hall was incongruent with its environment. The Percy Thomas Partnership was tasked with altering its exterior to mirror a French chateau from 1989 to 1991. This redesign, however, received mixed reviews, with some critics likening its appearance to a commercial rather than a noble estate. Despite these alterations, portions of Waterhouse's contributions, notably the Eaton Chapel, a Grade 1 listed edifice, remain key to the estate. Completed in 1884, the chapel showcases Waterhouse's Gothic revival style, featuring buff sandstone, a grey slate roof, and a sumptuous interior with alabaster and mosaics, alongside stained glass by Frederick Shields and a carillon of 28 bells. And the estate's architectural story mirrors broader tendencies in the field of architectural history. For example, the gardens of Eaton Hall, sprawling across 88 acres, are the culmination of extensive design and maintenance efforts by leading designers, including recent inputs by Lady Arabella Lennox Boyd. The evolution from formal 17th century gardens to the 18th century preference for informal layouts was significantly influenced by figures such as Lancelot, Capability Brown, and William Eames. Presently, these gardens feature a variety of flora and fauna, including 4 formal rose gardens and expansive herbaceous borders, alongside recent additions like the hot border design and the Dragon Garden's vibrant bedding scheme. And the estate's design and layout extend beyond mere aesthetic allure, fostering a balance between Cheshire's natural beauty and human creativity. For instance, the inclusion of a walled kitchen garden, a wildflower garden, and a lake walk signifies the Grosvenor family's reverence for both cultivated and natural environments. And the tea house, nestled at the end of a scenic lake walk, offers a peaceful haven, emphasizing the estate's dedication to crafting inviting and serene spaces. The tradition of hosting grand house parties during the Victorian era, where guests were entertained on an extravagant scale, highlights the Grosvenor family's significant wealth and social standing. And the selection of materials for the interiors, such as alabaster, porphyry, and green serpentine for the fireplace, a wedding gift from the Countess's brother, underscores the family's capacity to commission and appreciate exceptional craftsmanship. These days, Eaton Hall remains a private home, closed to the public, yet its architectural lineage, from a 17th century estate to a 19th century Gothic revival jewel, concluding with a contemporary interpretation of a French chateau, reflects the dynamic shifts and influences in British architecture over the eras. Hugh Grosvenor, the current Duke of Westminster, and his fiancée Olivia Henson have selected this historic estate as their future family home, continuing its long-standing tradition as the Grosvenor family seat since the 15th century. However, Eaton Hall still functions as a venue for charitable events at times. These events, usually held 3 times annually during the summer, play a crucial role in fundraising for local charities. Recently, in 2022, these charity open days generated over £50,000, showcasing the estate's community contributions. And the stable court at Eaton Hall is repurposed for exhibitions and events, housing a collection of Grosvenor family artifacts in the exhibition room and documenting the hall's history in the history room. The stables display equestrian-related artifacts, and the long room, akin to a country home drawing room, accommodates up to 150 people for events. And the Wolf Room, equipped with a movable stage and audiovisual amenities, offers another venue for gatherings. However, when the Grosvenor family want to get away from their main estate, there is a lovely countryside abode they can always go to, which we'll feature next. The Grosvenor family's abbeystead, nestled within Lancashire's lush countryside and situated in the Forest of Bowland, an area celebrated for its outstanding natural beauty, provides a tranquil haven from the rapid pace of contemporary life. And it's a cherished retreat for the Grosvenor family, highlighting the seamless blend of history and natural splendor that characterizes this region. Now, the hamlet's name, signifying the site of the abbey, brings to mind the fleeting tenure of Cistercian monks from Furness Abbey in the late 12th century. The monks chose this area for its strategic benefits, rich in natural resources, secluded enough to ensure a peaceful monastic life, yet fertile and water-rich for agriculture and self-sustenance. This combination of natural beauty and practical resources made Abbeystead an ideal spot for the monks' settlement and spiritual practices. And the monks' legacy in Abbeystead, particularly in agriculture and land management, is profound and enduring. Their innovative approaches to farming, such as the introduction of water management systems, terracing for increased arable land, and crop rotation to improve soil fertility, revolutionized local agriculture. These methods not only enhanced the productivity of the land, but also laid the foundations for sustainable agricultural practices that resonated throughout the region for generations, significantly shaping the character of Abbeystead and its surroundings. Furthermore, the Forest of Bowland, which enfolds Abbeystead, speaks to the area's remarkable natural beauty. Recognized as an area of outstanding natural beauty, this designation reflects the exceptional landscapes and serene ambience that define the region. The forest's heather-covered moorlands, deep valleys, and rich biodiversity make it a quintessential example of England's natural heritage. And it's this captivating scenery and tranquil atmosphere that underscore Abbeysted's allure, painting a picture of a place where the historical impact of its human inhabitants has harmonized with the natural environment to create a landscape that is both beautiful and bountiful. Home to significant populations of endangered bird species such as the curlew, lapwing and red shank, the estate's effective management of over 8,000 hectares of moorland supports these birds, alongside a successful peatland restoration program that has significantly reduced CO2 emissions, underlining the estate's dedication to conservation and environmental stewardship. Now, Abbeysted House itself, erected in 1886 as a shooting lodge for the 4th Earl of Sefton, also stands as a significant architectural and historical landmark in the area. Its construction, characterized by sandstone rubble with slate roofs and distinctive windows, reflects the era's architectural elegance. And the house's interiors, featuring dual fireplaces with panelled overmantels and an Elizabethan charm, represent meticulous attention to detail and historical value that define this Grade II listed building. Notably, the house served as the scene of a record-setting grouse shoot in 1915, cementing its status as a premier location for such activities, and witnessed the unfortunate passing of the 6th Duke of Westminster in 2016, adding a poignant chapter to its history. Now serving as the current personal residence of Hugh Richard Lewis Grosvenor, the 7th Duke of Westminster, until he and his bride move into Eaton Hall, Abbeysted House continues to embody the Grosvenor family's enduring connection to this tranquil rural escape. However, there was another home that put the Dukes of Westminster right in the centre of the London action for decades, which we'll explore in the next chapter. Grosvenor House, a beacon of London's architectural and societal evolution, played a pivotal role in reflecting the city's dynamic history, especially during the 19th and early 20th centuries. This grand structure not only mirrored the Grosvenor family's rise to prominence, but also served as a microcosm of the wealth, status, and influence that permeated London's upper echelons during that period. And the history of Grosvenor House is deeply entangled with Mayfair's transformation from mere pastures to a coveted district, thanks to the Grosvenor family's ambitious urban planning initiatives in the 1720s. Their strategic development of Mayfair, particularly with Grosvenor Square as its nucleus, signalled the dawn of a new era, and the relocation of the Grosvenor family to Park Lane and the subsequent construction of Grosvenor House exemplified their wealth and societal standing, marking a new chapter in their legacy. Specifically, Grosvenor House's architectural evolution, marked by significant expansions and the introduction of modern amenities like electricity in the late 19th century, symbolized the family's ambition to create a residence that was more than a home. It was a symbol of aristocratic prestige, a cultural beacon that attracted the social elite, especially during the so-called season. However, the onset of the First World War heralded a pivotal transformation in the function of Grosvenor House, transitioning from a hub of aristocratic leisure to a bastion of national service. Mirroring the evolving social landscape of the time, the war's outbreak necessitated its repurposing by the government, leading to the Duke of Westminster's decision by 1920 not to reclaim his ancestral home, and the subsequent sale of the property to A.O. Edwards, a visionary in commercial development, signalled the dawn of a new era for the site. Sadly, Edwards' plans culminated in the demolition of the original building in the autumn of 1927. This demolition heralded the construction of the Grosvenor House Hotel, a metamorphosis from a historic mansion to a contemporary hospitality icon. Under Edwards's stewardship, the project seamlessly blended modern luxury with Britain's traditional elegance, creating a destination for an international clientele while retaining an unmistakable British charm. Ownership of the Grosvenor House Hotel eventually passed to Katara Holdings under the Qatar Investment Authority, following its acquisition from Ashkenazi Acquisition Corporation, an American private property investment entity. Marriott International now operates the hotel, ensuring the legacy of Grosvenor House continues under esteemed stewardship. Today, the JW Marriott Grosvenor House, London, boasts a suite of amenities designed to meet the discerning tastes of its guests, including sumptuously appointed rooms with plush bedding, elegant marble bathrooms, and state-of-the-art connectivity options. These days, there is no significant controversy for a British royal or old money aristocrat to marry a so-called commoner, i.e., someone without a royal lineage or noble blood, with everyone from dukes to the king himself arguably marrying for love rather than title. However, imagine you yourself are a duke or duchess, choosing your partner based on affection, believing them to be a member of the middle classes, only to discover that your future spouse secretly belongs to the old money elite by lineage. Indeed, this ironic twist of fate unfolded for Hugh Grosvenor, the Duke of Westminster, a man who was previously one of the UK's most eligible bachelors and custodian of a fortune that intertwines with the very fabric of British aristocracy. Enter Olivia Henson, the woman who captured the Duke's heart. To the public eye, Olivia presented as a talented professional with a modest background, her life story resonating with the narrative of a self-made success. However, beneath this veneer of middle-class normalcy lay a hidden truth that would astonish the circles of British high society. Olivia is not merely the accomplished commoner she appeared to be. She is, in fact, a scion of several storied old money dynasties, from legendary banking families to not one, but two dukes, on top of the one she's about to marry. In today's episode, we peel back the layers of this captivating story, diving into the world of old money traditions, marrying for love and navigating legacy within the gilded corridors of British aristocracy, as we describe the secret old money lineage of the future Duchess of Westminster. Olivia Henson's leap from the ordinary to the ornate halls of British aristocracy is like a plot lifted straight from a fairy tale, except with better food and actual castles. Born on the 1st of September 1992, Olivia initially cruised under the radar, dedicating her days to the noble cause at Belazou. And this wasn't just any food company. Belazou was the ethical gourmet stream, serving up a smorgasbord of Mediterranean delights. Think olives that had seen more sunshine than the British summer, and oils smoother than a jazz singer's voice. Olivia, as a senior account manager, was the maestro behind ensuring these culinary gems not only tickled the taste buds, but did so with a green conscience. But as the hands of fate would have it, Olivia's storyline was due for a dazzling twist. Enter Hugh Grosvenor, the 7th Duke of Westminster, a man whose very name drips with wealth and prestige. Hugh's roots dig deep into the rich soil of British history, so much so that royal blood practically flows through his veins, with King Charles III as his godfather and Prince George as his unofficial nephew. Yet, despite his royal connections and a title that could open any door in London, Hugh, or Hughie to his mates, preferred the simple joys in life. Think more beer garden than gala balls. The love saga between Olivia and Hugh unfolded quietly, blossoming over 2 years far from the media's watchful eyes. Indeed, their engagement broke the internet in April 2023, not with pomp and pageantry, but with a candid snap that screamed, "Just chilling." The big question popped at Eton Hall in Cheshire, a place oozing so much history it should have its own documentary, marked the start of their shared journey into the echelons of the uber-rich. Oh, and about those riches, Hugh's wallet is thick. We're talking a net worth of 9.8 billion, making him one of Britain's heftiest wallets on legs. This isn't just pocket change. It's the kind of wealth that buys not just luxury but entire slices of London's most elite neighbourhoods, Mayfair and Belgravia. Therefore, the Grosvenor estate isn't just vast. It's a sprawling empire that spans the most coveted patches of the city, where real estate prices make monopoly money look like a sound investment. And then there's the Eton estate, a pastoral paradise that offers a bucolic counterpoint to the urban sprawl. Now, once they're hitched, Olivia and Hugh plan to oscillate between the high life in a London flat that's close enough to Buckingham Palace to borrow a cup of sugar from the Queen and the bucolic bliss of Eton Hall. Looking ahead, their June nuptials are set to be the social event of the season, with Chester Cathedral playing host to a guest list sparkling with the who's who of high society, everyone from royalty to the realm's glitterati, though the Sussexes will be sending their regrets. As Olivia steps into her new role as the Duchess of Westminster, she does so with the elegance and aplomb of someone born to it, ready to trade boardroom battles for balls and philanthropy. And here's the kicker: Olivia isn't exactly the newcomer to nobility that she seems. Beneath the surface of her professional London life lies a secret twist, a lineage almost as blue-blooded as her soon-to-be husband's. Yes, amidst the whispers of high society, it turns out Olivia Henson's family tree has roots tangled in aristocracy, making her leap into the lap of luxury less of a giant stride and more of a natural step. Exploring the lineage of Olivia Henson reveals a narrative deeply intertwined with the fabric of medieval history, notably her connection to the Norman Conquest. This pivotal event, which reshaped the English social and political landscape in 1066, is, interestingly, a shared heritage with her future spouse, Hugh Grosvenor, the Duke of Westminster. You see, the ancestry of Olivia, particularly through her maternal Frisby lineage, traces back to her grandfather, Simon Rollo Frisby, signifying a profound historical legacy. Furthermore, the Frisby name, with its roots in the Germanic Frisians from the contemporary Frisia region, embodies a saga of migration and settlement encapsulated in the etymology of Frisby, a fusion of Frisia, denoting the Frisian people, and Bia, an Old Norse term for farm or settlement, highlighting the family's journey from the Frisian territories to England. Now, the connection to the Norman Conquest, a landmark in English history, carries significant implications for Olivia's lineage, often denoting an old money or aristocratic heritage in England. This association arises because the conquest led to a radical redistribution of land and power, favouring Norman-descended nobility and their allies. Thus, families tracing their origins to this era are often seen as part of the historical aristocracy, such as the Percy family, the Cavendish family, and of course, the Grosvenor family themselves, inheriting not just wealth, but social prestige and influence over generations. Additionally, Olivia's family narrative is enriched by a migration to Ireland, a reflection of the broader movements of English families to North American colonies during periods of political turbulence in Britain. Now, over time, the Frisby name has evolved, with variations like Frisby, Frisbee, and Frisbee emerging, showcasing the impact of Norman French, Latin, and French on English, further complicated by the era's fluid spelling practices. This etymological exploration not only charts the Frisby family's geographic origins, but also their migration, settlement, and assimilation into new cultures. In contemporary times, Frisia's relevance in northwestern Europe is evident through its culture, economy, and political influence. Frisia spans across the Wadden Sea, incorporating areas in both the northern Netherlands and Germany, and is distinguished by its unique linguistic heritage. The language West Frisian, particularly in the Netherlands, remains a vital aspect of regional identity, surviving despite the dominance of Dutch and German. And this language enjoys official recognition in Friesland, with educational support and the Friska Academy in Leeuwarden fostering its persistence. Back on Albion, the Frisby name is also linked to several locations in Leicestershire, notably Frisby on the Reek and Frisby by Galby. And the original village of Frisby, though no longer existing, once stood on the grounds of what is now Frisby Hall farmland. Following the Norman Conquest of 1066, Olivia's Frisby family rose to prominence as lords of the Manor of Frisby, a status documented in the Domesday Book of 1086. This record, initiated by William the Conqueror, verifies the Frisby family's substantial land holdings and their pivotal role in the local social structure. In sum, this connection suggests a likelihood that Olivia's ancestors were acquainted with William the Conqueror, mirroring the historical ties of her future spouse's lineage. However, aristocratic ties to none other than William the Conqueror are just the start of the nobility-filled iceberg when we're talking about Olivia Henson's lineage. Let's flip over to the next chapter to find out her ancestors' legendary work in the worlds of finance and banking. Now, Olivia Henson's lineage, with ties to the illustrious Hoare banking family through her great-grandmother Angela Beryl Hoare, mother of the aforementioned Simon Rollo Frisby, highlights a storied connection to C. Hoare & Co., the United Kingdom's oldest private banking institution. And the Hoare family's wealth, outside of Olivia's personal assets, saw an upsurge of £40 million as recently as 2019. Buoyed by C. Hoare & Co.'s surging profits in the preceding year. Founded in 1672 under the emblem of the Golden Bottle, C. Hoare & Co. has the distinction of being the UK's most enduring privately owned bank, having remained under the continuous stewardship of the Hoare family for 12 generations. And the inception of Hoare's Bank is closely linked to Sir Richard Hoare, who, upon completing his apprenticeship, was awarded the Freedom of the Goldsmiths Company in July 1672. This accolade, significant within the City of London's livery companies, not only conferred certain privileges, but also signified a respected status among London's mercantile and artisan communities. Thus, Richard Hoare's establishment at the Golden Bottle in Cheapside utilised distinct signage for business identification, a common practice before the advent of street numbering. And the evolution from goldsmithing to banking was a natural progression for Richard Hoare, as goldsmiths, custodians of cash and valuables, were well positioned to develop banking services. By 1677, a significant number of goldsmiths had begun to offer banking services, leading to the establishment of running cashes or current accounts. The 18th century marked a period of prosperity for the bank, with Richard Hoare receiving a knighthood from Queen Anne in 1702 and serving as Lord Mayor of London in 1712. Following his demise, his sons Henry and Benjamin continued the business, further embedding the family's legacy within London's financial and philanthropic circles. Notable among their clients were members of the Society for the Propagation of Christian Knowledge, illustrating the bank's early integration into the fabric of London's charitable and intellectual societies. And Henry Hoare, the Magnificent, a nickname earned through his patronage of the arts and his development of the Stourhead estate, was instrumental in introducing banking innovations such as printed cheques. Under his leadership, C. Hoare & Co. not only flourished financially, but also contributed to the cultural and social landscape of the time. Therefore, Olivia Henson's secret old money lineage can also boast a connection to some of Albion's most illustrious financial groups, even if, unfortunately for her, none of that current surging cash has trickled its way into her dowry. However, if you thought simply being connected to the Norman Conquest was the extent of Olivia's hidden aristocratic lineage, you'd be wrong. In the next chapter, we'll explore her ancestors' lineage as it relates to another set of dukes in merry old England. Now Olivia, through maternal lineage, shares a connection with the esteemed Dukes of Rutland, a family whose historical significance and cultural contributions have seamlessly intertwined with England's history. You see, the Manners family, from which the Dukes originate, has maintained its stature through a blend of extensive land holdings, favoured status at court, and consistent involvement in the nation's political and military spheres, marking their presence over centuries. And during the 18th century, particularly under the Whig ascendancy, the Dukes of Rutland emerged as pivotal figures. But their influence was not confined to the realm of politics alone. It extended into the social fabric through marriages that fortified their status and proximity to the monarchy. The marriage of John Manners to Lady Catherine Russell not only symbolised a union of powerful families, but also played a crucial role in elevating the earldom of Rutland to a dukedom in 1703. And their impact was equally significant in military circles. The Marquess of Granby, a notable figure in British military history, left an enduring legacy as a general during the 7 Years' War. His renown is such that his name graces more pubs across the nation than any other figure, with the exception of the Queen, a testament to his lasting popularity and influence. Additionally, in the realm of culture and arts, the Dukes of Rutland have made indelible contributions. The 9th Duke's passion for medieval art led to the meticulous restoration of Haddon Hall in Derbyshire, an exemplar of medieval architecture enhanced by Tudor modifications. Though less known than Chatsworth, Haddon Hall is celebrated as one of the most pristine medieval houses existing today. And Belvoir Castle, the ancestral home of the Dukes, stands as a cultural beacon, its majestic architecture featuring prominently in films and television, including notable appearances in The Crown. This exposure has not only highlighted the architectural elegance of the estate, but also underscored the family's enduring engagement with the cultural landscape of England. Moreover, the patronage of the arts and literature continues to be a hallmark of the Dukes of Rutland's legacy. In a notable historical gesture, the 5th Duke, John Henry Manners, commissioned a mausoleum at Belvoir Castle as both a final resting place for his family and a landmark architectural project. And the 11th Duke of Rutland, a figure of considerable wealth and influence, with an estimated fortune of £125 million, has played a significant role in the current English social landscape. Known for his support of the UK Independence Party, he has leveraged Belvoir Castle as a venue for fundraising activities. Beyond politics, the Duke has engaged in various commercial ventures tied to the estate, including hosting shooting parties and weddings, demonstrating the estate's versatility in serving both traditional and contemporary societal functions. However, a recent incident in October 2023 cast a shadow over the Duke's stewardship of the land. His estate was at the centre of controversy for burning a vast expanse of moorland near Sheffield, leading to significant air pollution issues and sparking public outcry. This event prompted calls for a ban on moorland burning for grouse shooting, a practice entwined with the landed gentry's traditions. South Yorkshire's Mayor, Oliver Coppard, articulated the public's frustration and concern, highlighting a critical moment of environmental and social reckoning. However, lucky for Olivia, none of these controversies have touched her notoriety, as her connection to the Dukes of Rutland is sufficiently far removed. In short, as we can see, Olivia Henson is truly the secret old money future Duchess, and we can't wait to see how her life plays out with Hugh Grosvenor. In a world where most millennials or Gen Z who come into great wealth are manically thumbing their smartphones, desperate to capture that next Instagram moment or TikTok trend that sends them viral, Hugh Grosvenor stands as a glaring exception. Indeed, he's not just any millennial. He's one that has more cash on hand than King Charles himself, sitting atop a fortune estimated to be in the billions of pounds. Yet, unlike a Kardashian, who when compared to Hugh is actually kind of broke, you won't find the Duke flashing his opulent lifestyle across social media or live streaming his every move hoping to hit the Explore page. No, Hugh Grosvenor, the 7th Duke of Westminster, embodies the essence of old money elegance. Instead of flaunting his wealth, this 32-year-old aristocrat manages vast estates and even puts his money to philanthropic use. Thus, raised in an era fixated on public personas and immediate gratification, Hugh Grosvenor's restrained approach is not just refreshing, it's downright revolutionary. In today's video at Old Money Luxury, join us as we dive into the psychology, philanthropy, controversy, and luxury of Hugh Grosvenor, the young billionaire of the old money United Kingdom. On January 29, 1991, Hugh Grosvenor came into this world as a member of the esteemed Grosvenor family. But before anything else, let's get something straight. The Grosvenors aren't just any family. They're one of Britain's most storied aristocratic lineages, with an unbroken line of influence extending over 1,000 years. While they may not hold the singular title of Britain's oldest non-royal aristocratic family, they share the rarefied air with other historical powerhouses such as the Percys and Howards. What sets the Grosvenors apart, however, is their unparalleled social and financial influence, qualities that have been woven into British society for more than a millennium. Born to Gerald Grosvenor, the 6th Duke of Westminster, and his wife Natalia, Hugh was never going to lead an ordinary life. With the Grosvenor estate valued at a staggering £9 billion, he became the 7th Duke of Westminster in 2016. It's hard to grasp the enormous responsibility that comes with such a title and fortune. We're talking about a young millennial suddenly handed the keys to not just enormous wealth, but also an empire built over centuries. In terms of education, one might expect such an individual to be groomed in Britain's finest institutions from the word go. Yet Hugh started off at a local state primary school, later spending time at a preparatory school. He then moved on to Ellesmere College, a lesser-known public school in Shropshire, where he excelled both in academics and on the cricket field. In this, Hugh was adhering to a long-standing tradition. Cricket has been the aristocrat sport for generations, steeped in British customs and nobility. When it came time to select a university, Hugh opted for Newcastle, not Oxford or Cambridge as one might expect, and the decision was no accident. Agriculture is at the heart of the Grosvenor estate, making his choice an example of purpose over prestige. Hugh graduated in 2013 with a degree in agriculture. Upon graduation, he entered the Wheatsheaf Group, an agriculture and food investment firm that is a part of the Grosvenors' sprawling Eton estate. This wasn't merely a cushy role handed to him, it was a calculated entry into the family business, a strategic apprenticeship in estate management. And as he settled into this foundational phase, his career took a trajectory that few could have anticipated, paving the way for a future fraught with opportunities and challenges alike. In August 2016, the world shifted on its axis for Hugh Grosvenor when his father, Gerald Grosvenor, the 6th Duke of Westminster, met his untimely demise at the age of 64. It was more than just a changing of the guard. It was the moment when Hugh assumed the title of the 7th Duke of Westminster and, more substantially, gained control of an empire, the Grosvenor estate, valued at a jaw-dropping £9 billion. But let's be clear, this isn't just any fortune. We're talking about an extensive property portfolio that makes up significant portions of Mayfair and Belgravia, two of London's most exclusive neighbourhoods. It's an empire divided into three powerful portfolios: Grosvenor Group, Family Office, and Wheatsheaf Group. The Grosvenor Group alone has a staggering £11.8 billion in assets under management. But in a country that's often punitive when it comes to the so-called death taxes, the Grosvenors have been able to sidestep the financial guillotine. Through the shrewd use of trusts, the family has kept their assets largely unscathed by Britain's inheritance tax system. Hugh Grosvenor, for all the riches that now have his name attached, doesn't own these assets personally. He's the beneficiary of an estate trust, which gives him the golden ticket to the income generated, without individual rights to the assets. Thus, in 2017, the family came under a public microscope, scrutinized and criticized for their perceived mastery in the art of tax avoidance. The trusts, after all, are UK resident and subject to British tax. They pay a 6% charge on many of their assets every decade. Some say that proves the family's doing their civic duty, but not everyone is buying it. John Christensen, director of the Tax Justice Network, pulled no punches when he said that for the uber-rich like the Grosvenors, inheritance tax had essentially become optional. The family, however, counter-argued. They insisted that the primary function of these trusts was not to dodge the taxman, but to ensure continuity of ownership, a tradition handed down through the ages. Rolling into the end of the 2010s decade, with the mantle now squarely on Hugh Grosvenor's shoulders, we had to wonder, how would he navigate these treacherous waters as he took on control of the Grosvenor Group? After all, Hugh wasn't just stepping into his father's shoes. He was stepping onto a stage where every move was scrutinized and every decision was magnified. Now, Hugh Grosvenor, as the owner and chair of trustees of the Grosvenor Group, isn't merely a custodian of ancestral wealth. He's a 21st century magnate steering an international behemoth in real estate development and investment. Forget about the quaint idea of a nobleman overlooking a few swathes of English countryside. Grosvenor's empire isn't confined to the posh enclaves of Mayfair and Belgravia. The group's influence is a global affair, with a portfolio stretching from Anasis Island in Vancouver, Canada, to luxury residential developments in Tokyo, Japan. Indeed, the Grosvenor estate is as international as it gets, laying claims to prime real estate in Hong Kong, San Francisco, and multiple European cities. And let's dispel another myth. It's not just about glitzy buildings and sprawling estates. This is a multifaceted empire, extending its reach into cutting-edge fields. Take Grosvenor Food and Agtech's investments in Gusto, a meal kit delivery service, and Vitel, a specialist in livestock reproductive technologies. Hugh Grosvenor is thus not a man anchored to the past. He's a visionary, keenly aware that even the grandest of empires need to adapt to remain relevant. And sustainability is more than a buzzword for Grosvenor Group. It's an actionable commitment. The group has made strategic investments in agritech startups and sustainable food ventures, like the Jackfruit Company, which produces meat alternatives from jackfruit, and Perfresh, a firm providing atmosphere systems for fresh produce transport. These investments are more than mere financial diversification. They're bets on the future of food production. Venture capital investment is another intriguing chapter in the Grosvenor legacy. It's a seismic shift, moving away from the traditional bricks and mortar to engage with cutting-edge technology. The group has funneled £2.1 million into Commonplace, a digital engagement platform for community planning. It has also participated in a Series A funding round for Qualis Flow, a construction tech firm focusing on environmental risk management, among other strategic investments. So indeed, this is Hugh Grosvenor reimagined. He has injected liquidity into a portfolio that might have otherwise been too tied to conventional investment avenues. He's unafraid to adapt, unafraid to shift from the well-trodden paths of his forefathers. The Duke's management style is an artful balance of homage to traditions and a willingness to embrace the new. He stands as a symbol of how empires not only can, but must adapt, even when legacies are deeply rooted and expectations monumental. Now, in the age of social media saturation, where every move is Instagrammed and every thought tweeted, Hugh Grosvenor takes a decidedly different approach. This is indeed in stark contrast to many of his millennial aristocratic and royal contemporaries, who are no strangers to the public eye. Take, for instance, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, whose lives are an open book, voluntarily or otherwise. Or Lady Kitty Spencer, niece of Princess Diana, who's a regular feature in fashion shows and high society galas. The Duke of Westminster sidesteps this, choosing to immerse himself in duties rather than in headlines. His elusive presence isn't a default of privilege, but a calculated effort. Despite a status that warrants public attention, he's mastered the art of juggling his societal obligations with an almost zealous safeguarding of his private life. This unusual conduct helps him devote time to weighty responsibilities, such as being the chair of trustees for both the Grosvenor Group and the Westminster Foundation. In a world hungry for every morsel of aristocratic life, Hugh remains an enigma, largely untouched by public scrutiny. However, even Hugh couldn't entirely dodge the spotlight when it shone harshly on the fissures of social inequality in the United Kingdom. His immense inherited fortune and the Grosvenor family's colossal property holdings became poster children for the economic disparities plaguing Britain. This focus was intensified by the use of complex trusts and other financial mechanisms, all legally permissible but morally dubious to some, especially when the gap between the haves and have-nots is widening at an alarming rate. Cue the Paradise Papers. This trove of 13.4 million confidential documents exposed the financial gymnastics of numerous high-profile individuals and companies, including the Grosvenor family. Until 1999, millions had been funneled into offshore firms, with half of the shares in a subsidiary responsible for the family's North American and Australian operations, controlled by tax haven entities. Although entirely lawful under UK statutes, these revelations added fuel to the fire for those demanding reforms to redress inherited wealth advantages and shrink social inequality. Yet, despite these damning dossiers and the cloud of controversy, there remains a prevailing sentiment that Hugh Grosvenor isn't just another wealthy aristocrat capitalizing on the system. He's viewed through a more charitable lens. Why, you might ask? Well, the answer might surprise you, given the conventional narrative that often accompanies the extraordinarily wealthy. It's a topic worth delving into because, you see, Hugh Grosvenor is generally considered to be a good guy. But what has led to this contrary perception? As one of the top 15 richest individuals in the United Kingdom and a trusted associate of the royal family, the Duke of Westminster stands at the nexus of power and prestige. Yet this is not your average aristocrat we're talking about. This is a millennial duke, tech-savvy, progressive, and keenly aware of his generational context. Thus, the significance of Grosvenor as a young, visible aristocrat should not be understated. In an age where millennials and Gen Z capture public attention with a mere tweet, Grosvenor's youthful visibility can potentially transform the aristocracy from a relic of the past to a dynamic entity. He could shape opinions and policies for decades, acting as a link between the centuries-old establishment and a modern, attention-driven generation. Let's not forget the philanthropy. Grosvenor doesn't merely idle away his fortune on luxury and indulgence. He serves as the chair of trustees for the Westminster Foundation, extending a helping hand to organizations that focus on vulnerable children. It's a role that doesn't just look good on paper. It paints the picture of an aristocrat deeply rooted in the 21st century, engaged, conscientious, and proactive. And here's where it gets particularly interesting. Grosvenor's contemporary approach is doing more than just boosting his family's fortunes. It's rebranding the British aristocracy itself. For years, the noble classes have been dismissed as stale, detached, and dwindling in influence. Grosvenor challenges that narrative. By leveraging modern strategies, he's casting the aristocrats not as cobwebbed relics, but as dynamic entrepreneurs adapting to a changing world. This isn't just a man refurbishing estates, it's someone renovating the very image of British nobility. And therefore, Hugh Grosvenor, 7th Duke of Westminster, is more than just a wealthy nobleman. He is an emblem of what the aristocracy could become in an era clamoring for change, if they play their cards right.